Welcome, everybody. We call the Committee of the Whole meeting together for February 11th, 2025. I'll do the territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land coming to our school and district buildings are situated in the traditional unceded, non-surrendered territory of the Algonquin people. We also recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people on the land on which we gather here today. We'll do attendance. Chair is here, Vice Chair. I see he's here.
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, I really am here. And thank you, Leo, for leading the meeting today. I really appreciate it.
Sure. I didn't know if there was a little delay from where you are, halfway around the world.
It could be a bit slow, and it is an hour later, so maybe that's the issue.
Trustee Dobson.
Here.
Trustee Doherty, she sends her regrets. Trustee Gannett.
Here.
Trustee Kaiser. Let's see. Trustee Primo.
Here.
Trustee Rajamani.
Here.
Trustee Reddy.
Here.
Student trustee Ding sends regrets. Trustee Doherty. See her senior staff, Director Nemi.
Here.
Superintendent Burns.
Here.
Superintendent Poirier.
Here.
Superintendent Smith sends regrets. Superintendent Cronwald and Superintendent Nickel.
Here.
Welcome, everybody. Thank goodness we're not meeting on Thursday. Apparently, we're going to have a little bit of snow. I'm going to try and send it all to Susan. It'll all melt really quickly. So everybody had the agenda. We just want to add a enclosed item. So I guess that would be like 6.4. I need approval for the revised agenda. Carthy, thank you. Seconder. Dave, all in favor? That's passed. And with the new agenda, any declarations or conflict of interest? Seeing none. Into the meat of the meeting. So we have a couple of staff reports. First one is on the report on secondary pathways through OYAP and Shazam and Scott.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll bring Alex Harris up as well. Sorry to Kristen and Susan, our backs will be to you, but. So the purpose of this report is just to provide, quite frankly, two very impressive programs, the scope and the impact that they have. And in particular, we're hoping that we can highlight the successful community partnerships that we've had, as well as the very rich differentiation that we've had for secondary students to be able to see different pathways and achieve different pathways for success. So I'll just turn it over to Alex here, and our Alex as our Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, or OEAP coordinator, is here, and Pat Razzo, who would be our SHSM or Specialist High School Major coordinator. He's not able to attend, so I'll be speaking for some of his parts.
Thanks, Scott. So OEAP, or Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, is a school to work transition program. The idea is to expose students to careers in the skilled trades, usually via the apprenticeship pathway when they leave school. And this all runs through cooperative education. So students are selecting co-op. They're, as we call it, they're out in the community. They're doing their placement. And we have actually quite a good percentage of our students who take co-op who are in skilled trades. For Specialist High Skills Major, or SHSM, we call it Shazam in this part of the world. So a specialized and, of course, Ministry of Education approved program that assists students in their transition in order to go from high school to post-secondary and or the workplace. And that program basically allows students to focus their studies in one of 19 sectors that the province has identified. It also includes a cooperative education component. So everything runs through co-op of these two programs.
So in terms of current status, you can see on here that over 50% of the available programs that we have through SHSM exist within our board. Of note, our top three would be in terms of health and wellness, transportation, and construction. The other thing I draw your attention to is the chart underneath, and you see on the right-hand column, it refers to the SHSM footprint. And so what that's referring to is percentage of grade 11 and 12 students that are enrolled in SHSM programming. And when you review those percentages, you might see some that are higher than others, but of note though, is that even when we look at one that's say, one of our lowest ones, it's still 9% above the provincial average, which is 21%. So just to give you some context on that. And I'll just turn it back over to Alex for just the current status for the OEAP.
Sure, thanks very much. So you can be a student in both programs at once, and so some of these percentages you may kind of cross over. But when we take a look at the number of students that are taking co-op right now, generally grade 11 and grade 12 students, more than half of them currently have their placement in a skilled trade sector. So they fall under the OEAP family, as we like to call it, and they can basically dip their toes in just a little bit and explore the trade, or they can get quite deep into it and become a registered apprentice with the Ministry of Labor Training Skills Development. And at that point, they are basically have all the benefits of being a licensed tradesperson or a licensed apprentice at that point. So in this province, in Ontario, the skilled trade system is needlessly complex. Please don't try to understand it. It has 4 broad sectors: construction trades, industrial trades, multi-power trades, and service trades. So you can take a look at, I believe everybody has this, right? And so you can take a look and see where our student percentages kind of shake out overall. And we also try to highlight what we do for our students in this county through a options events called Options, a skilled trades career fair and competition that's held annually in the city of Renfrew. Olympics for the skilled trade students to show their skills. Great. So we have some outcomes of the program. Would you like me to speak about that?
That'd be great.
Sure.
Sort of generic for both, really.
Yeah, no problem. And they do overlap. So we talk about both of these as separate things. You could be a student who's only in one and not in the other, but quite often our students are in both. And of course, the goal is to have them experience the workforce, gain some skills, and look for success. So their high school experience can be tailored towards what they want to do. I'm interested in manufacturing, I can explore manufacturing. Interested in the service or being a chef, I can explore that. We want to make sure that students have the opportunity to make good decisions about their post-secondary pathways. There are more direct ways into certain trades than others, as well as certain sectors of employment. So we try to make sure that their experience in high school can certainly further their exploration of those post-secondary pathways. So making those good connections. And Superintendent Nicol mentioned our community partners earlier, and none of this goes forward without community partners. So this is knock on door community partners. Hello, this is who we are. Here's our students that are taking co-op. It opens that door of communication, and then from there we just kind of continue to grow our Rolodex of community partners. That's about it. Do you want the sector?
No, for sure. Just in terms of next steps, you'll see for the SHSM that the first 2 bullets speak to continuing. So the one mentioned there was continuing the partnerships. In speaking with our SHSM board coordinator, Pat Brazeau, about this, I said, when do you find time to connect with community partners? And he says, I do it all the time. He said, and so this was last week when I was speaking with him. He said, the week before I was just at the hockey rink. I was talking to another parent, realized that he had a connection that could help with our SHSM programming. And we set up a contact and information. So it's one of those things that I think it's always on their minds. But the other thing that I just wanted to highlight, again, very high numbers in terms of the footprint of the SHSM as compared to the province. And part of it is very strategic and consistent that Pat Brazeau does in terms of being able to speak to grade 10 students when they start to think about what they want to take for grade 11. So it's very strategic when he comes in to promote the SHSM programming. And in addition, in the grade 11 year, at the beginning of the school year, again, very strategic in terms of being able to give those promotions. But the other thing that I just wanted to draw your attention to, so it speaks about removing barriers. Mm-hmm. So there is we want to close the gap between the enrollment percentage and the completion percentage. So where are we finding some challenges? And one of the challenges that Pat Brazeau notices in speaking with the student success teams, as well as with the students, is that they're having a hard time at times trying to fit in the SHSM programming within the school year, depending on the other course requirements that they have. So there's been a bigger promotion in the last few years in particular about the summer co-op program, just so that it provides some flexibility for students to take what they need to during the year. The other thing too is a platform that's used for course selection and really career options. It's called My Blueprint. And so using that, there's two things that does it. And again, it's promoting it to make sure that the student success teams are, trying to use it and encouraging the students to use it. So the one would be just so that the staff, and in particular student success staff, like guidance counselors, as well as the students can monitor their progress. So they don't all of a sudden realize that they don't have enough time to get some things done. But in addition though, by monitoring the courses that students are wanting to take and have currently take, the My Blueprint actually can flag, if you will, those particular students that may be well suited in a particular program through SHSM.
Absolutely. So in terms of OEF next steps, the Ministry of Education is rolling out something new-ish called OEF Fast. So you'll likely see that or hear that. It's not much different than what exists already. It's called Focused Apprenticeship Skills Training. So that's going to come starting September 2025. Basically, students will elect to choose this pathway, and it's to let the school know, to let their parents know that they're very much interested in the apprenticeship pathway. And their goal will be to become a signed apprentice before they leave high school. It's going to be one of the new things we're going to see in the SHSM program. When you complete the program successfully, you do get a seal on your diploma. There will be a seal on your diploma for OEF Fast as well, starting available in June 2026. One of the things that Superintendent Nicol mentioned, that the next step is always building new partnerships. It doesn't stop. It's a good time. Our phones ring often because the workforce is lean in certain sectors. We have some interesting huge partners that are interested in talking with us, and we do talk to all the way down to the micro level. So some of the new firms that we've worked with starting this year, Enbridge, Enercare. There's a consultant firm called I7 from the Algonquin First Nation, and an exciting partnership on the bubble for something called ACOM. And this is going to be a neat opportunity for our students, I think, if things all kind of come the way they're supposed to. We hope to also continue to seek partners to assist us in accessing monies that are currently on the table through the Skills Development Fund, and we will wait to see if these are pending the outcome of the provincial election in February.
So just wondering if there's any questions or comments.
Anybody, any inquiries? Right?
Yeah, I just want to, I know, Scott, you haven't been with our board that long, but I just wanted to back up quite a piece. And our vice chair, Susan Humphreys, and the previous whole board, some of who are new, we voted on quite some time ago about $300,000 being injected into our shops. But it was just sort of it was an envelope, but a lot of research had to be done by whoever does it with our board. And the last line, the last few sentences in this report, it says, continue seeking provincial skills development fund, SDF, support and or training. This is the part that I'm really interested in, or enhancing the RCDSB skills trades programs. My thoughts, I feel extremely strong about this. And there's $300,000 sitting in a fund that's been approved by our board of trustees. And I think that this is all interconnected. And I would describe our shops, and I've said this before, as diamonds in the rough. And I stress points that are rough. And it's concerning to me that this has been going on for over 2 years. And you haven't been a part of it, Scott. We've got some new people at the table. We've got some new trustees. But to me, we have a lot of people who aren't maybe university or even necessarily college bound, that this is their leg up. And to me, and I'm speaking for myself, I would like our fellow trustees to do some research in this, but to give some of these students a leg up where I know that the skilled trades, I mean, they're buying them boots, they're buying them their hard hats, they're buying them equipment. It's like when they're doing their trade, they go off to college and it's paid for by some fund. It might be EI or whatever. I mean, I know someone who recently just turned his 5th year as an electrician. He had a safe job with a pension before that at maxed out at $23 an hour. He finally made the plunge, got into the trades at 33 years old. He's 36 or 37 now. I asked him 2 weeks ago, so do you mind me asking you what you're getting paid? You just went into 5th year. He said, yeah, $47 an hour. He's not a registered electrician yet. So I like to use the phrase, I have nothing against someone who works in retail, no matter what you do in this life. But when it comes to your quality of living, the trades, without having to spend $150,000 in university, to me, strongly is where it's at. So that $300,000 that's been sitting there for a couple of years, it's concerning to me. Whatever research is being done, I think it's time. I strongly think it's time to look at this envelope, do what needs to be done, and let's get on with it. I'm not involved in the day-to-day, so I don't know what's been said or done. I know there's been a lot of time and effort by our executive team and whoever makes these decisions. But to me, it's time. That envelope needs to be wisely used. I think that there's a debate whether you go out and just hire people, a firm that's like an expensive consultant to come in and do the work versus hiring a millwright. I know that some investigations have been done on both. I know what I would prefer, but I don't hold the purse strings and I don't make those decisions. Okay, I really strongly feel, and I think it's really challenging to find the right person, but that person might be out there. My thoughts are a millwright. If you don't hire a millwright and you hire a consultant, you probably get 25% of the hours because they're going to get paid all kinds of money. So those are my thoughts. I'd like the executive team to get back to us group as trustees, because there's a lot of money sitting around there. Every semester, every year that goes by, I personally think we're doing our students in the trades, constructions, half of the students that are out there, a disservice. I don't know. I don't have that information at my fingertips. You and the exec team are more at liberty to do that. Maybe this isn't the time to debate this for the next half hour, an hour, but I do feel that we need to have further discussions ASAP regarding this file. And this, we do a lot of great things with this board. This isn't a knock on anyone in particular. I guess I'm frustrated and maybe somewhat tired of what I perceive, don't know, but I perceive is happening. And I sort of apologize looking at you because you're one of the new guys on the block. This has been going on for a long time, Scott. And it bothers me to have to say this, but if I don't say it, then I have to go home and look at myself in the mirror and say, well, I didn't say this and I should have stood up and said it.
Is that Kristen?
Hand up to Paul, yeah.
Yes.
Correct, Kristen?
Thank you. So Mike, I really appreciate your comments. There's been a large group of us meeting on a monthly basis to work through this. And just yesterday we had another meeting, and Alex and Scott and Jacqueline and Jen and I were all there with Shane and Bill and Pat and Brandy from procurement. So we have been taking our time to work on this, but I will point out to the whole group that this was approved, this 300,000 was approved at the end of June of 2024. So it's been 8 months, give or take, that we've been working on this. And so we did conduct interviews of millwrights. Right in the interview, they raised concerns about leaving a well-paying job for a temporary position. We've explored outsourcing the work multiple times. And we've had assessments done of the shops, like where we received reports about the work that needed to be done. We've had a lot of people working on this, and it is a challenging situation. Many boards are in this situation as well. There is not consensus around the table that a full-time millwright is needed for now and like forever. And so that is why we asked for the 300,000 to pilot some version of a solution. And so as of yesterday, what we've decided is that the facilities department is going to completely take over all of the repairs and preventative maintenance for our shops. And what I would say is, having worked across multiple districts, it's fairly common and historical that facilities doesn't always support program. with equipment. And that's just the nature of how school boards operate, because they get capital funding and program services gets funding from a different envelope and all of those things. So we are going to try something different, which means that facilities is going to take on this responsibility. Superintendent Barnes has already started working on with Bill on a short-term plan and on a long-term plan. So in the short term, let's get caught up on the backlog of repairs. And in the long term, what is this going to look like? So for example, their plan is to put every single piece of equipment that is anchored to the floor, the wall, like anchored to the building, into eBase, which means it becomes an asset that is monitored through eBase, just the way our HVAC equipment is monitored, and whatever else, all the types of equipment that facilities has to monitor in terms of repairs and preventative maintenance. So we're basically going to be taking the same approach for all of our shop equipment. And that way, all of the repairs, the preventative maintenance, it will all be coordinated through eBase, which is what we use for all of our other equipment in our buildings. So Jen and Bill are working on a plan in terms of how to use that 300,000. For example, we're looking at backfilling for facility staff to get all that equipment entered into eBase. That's step number one. And then step number two is figuring out, okay, long-term, like once we're caught up on the backlog of repairs, so we might have our internal electricians do some of this work. We might outsource some of the work. We might need a millwright to come in and do some of the work, but it's not all millwright work based on the assessment that's been done. So once they get all of this backlog done, then what they have to figure out is what, like they're probably going to need extra staff and facilities to take this on long term. But the question is, what type of facility staff? And so we have been working on this. I know that our tech teachers really want to see some improvements, and we do value the ones that we have, and we want to attract more to our CDSB. So as of yesterday, we made decisions about how we're moving forward. And so I'm glad you asked the question, because now we were able to share. And we look forward to bringing updates to the trustees about the progress that we're making with the plan that we've decided on.
Okay, that follow.
When you say bring up updates, is it going to be like every second month? Is it going to be an update at the end of June to say, this is what we've done so far, this is where we're going? Like,
Great question. So the updates are going to come to Executive Council on a regular basis. And what I would say is we can bring you updates as things are evolving. So for example, once we've got a good chunk of the backlog of repairs done, we're going to bring that to you. Once we, have inputted all the assets into eBase and we have that plan up and running, we can bring that to you. So I think it's sort of as things are getting implemented, we can bring updates. Happy to do that. And I can even bring them in like my director's report, right? Like even short updates about where we are with this.
okay. And I guess lastly, it would be really nice to know the struggles. Like there's no set book. It's like COVID. There's no set book on how to do this. Okay. You've got sort of a triangular approach. Some may be done within, some with a millwright. You may have to hire somebody, like all that's in the mix. So I'm pleased in one way saying that, we're moving forward, but it concerns me the length of time that it's taken. So I apologize for my frustration. It's in my voice, but I just feel some things need to be said, and I've said them. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, and I think, we took 5 months. Summertime was it's a bit challenging in the summer to move things forward. But for the last 5 months, that whole team's been working really hard and trying to figure out exactly the best path, and also trying to be fiscally responsible and making the right decisions. And that's why we have taken 5 months to work on this.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
Thanks, Leo, and thanks, Kristen, for clarifying that. It is good to have an update on how that's proceeding. I know it's all something we've kind of near and dear to our heart. I had a couple of questions, but before I do that, certainly Alex and Scott and Pat, you do an amazing job on this program, and I don't think we can say enough about the enthusiasm that you share and getting the kids involved, but also getting communities involved as well. So thank you for all you do on that. I really had a couple of questions. One is, are you seeing any trends that we need to be aware of? I mean, you've been involved now for quite a while, Alex, with both OEAP and SHSM, just simply because they do overlap. I'm just wondering over the last 5 years, kind of what the trends are. I know our SHSMs have been very high compared to provincial ones. And I guess one of the things we always wondered about is that really a good thing? Like, are we offering too many options for people? Anyway, so the trends piece is one. And then the only other one I wondered about, and I know we talked about this maybe a year or more ago, and I know that you're always looking for new opportunities. I guess I'm just wondering where we're at with our potential working relationship with CNL, because that was one of the pieces that we had talked about a little while ago. So if you can give me some updates on that, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure, I don't know if I should like steer, like where to go, so I'll just kind of spin and rotate a little bit, if that's okay. So I'll just start with CNL really quick, if that's okay. Long story short, after investigating with the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission, the International Atomic IEAA, whatever, International Atomic Energy Association, and the Canada Labor Code, it basically means that we can't send students under 18 there because of the interpretation of what a nuclear worker is at Canada Nuclear Laboratories, or Canadian Nuclear Laboratories. So it's very interesting. And apparently it comes back to basically like what's considered to be the allowed dosimetry per, how many millirads or microrads, whatever it is, per person. So CNL co-op placements have ceased. Even though the training staff there are very interested in having these folks back, there was some movement towards when Director Pavone was here. We had that kind of tete-a-tete with the head managers there. There was some movement towards getting more placements, but it hit a brick wall really quickly when they kind of explained what their definition of nuclear energy worker was and how that's phrased in the labor code. So that hit a wall. And unfortunately, that's where we're at. But we've been able to mop up those kind of students who want placements that could have been there and reallocate them to other places. And that ties into a trend. So for some strange reason, every student wants to be an electrician. I don't know why. We're trying to figure out why across the province, everybody that's in a skilled trade wants to be an electrician. Perhaps it's seen as cushy. I don't know. Or perhaps they've been on a roof in January, and as a carpenter and said, that's enough. I'd rather be inside. So we are seeing a lot of students want to pursue construction trades, specifically electrical. We are also seeing the fact that we don't have enough placements for those students in the community, mostly by virtue of, if everybody wants to be a chef, well, we only have so many restaurants. So same for electrician. More students are choosing to have a placement in the skilled trades, whether that's an effective provincial marketing campaigns, our own internal marketing, the fact that they're enjoying tech ed classes at the school setting. Hard to predict exactly why. So more students taking co-op, the number of hours we report each year to the Ministry of Education for Workplace Safety Insurance Board premiums have increased 170,000-ish co-op hours, unpaid co-op hours last year. A number of sections of co-op have increased, and every school has more co-op students this semester, except for one who had way more last semester than they do normally. So those are the trends that I just say in a nutshell overall. And with the increased numbers in co-op, we know that's either driven by or there's another, I guess, reciprocal relationship there. Students are in SHSM and they must take a co-op to complete. So I'd say that I hope that answers your questions kind of overall. Those are the main trends. Yeah, do you have anything to add? No. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great, Alex. Thanks very much. That's a good update. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, anytime you talk about CNL, I'm going to have a couple more questions.
Please, yeah.
And part of it is because I know that co-op placements. There have been tons of co-op placements through CNL before, and I understand the issue with the dosimetry and the amount of radiation. But there are several sites, some of them that are, an entire town away. So I'm not understanding really why, for example, the JL Gray building in Deep River, or what used to be Keys, and I think they've moved now to Value Mart, where there's no radiation, or the non-active area, why those aren't potential spaces.
I don't exactly know, to be quite honest. We were just told one of the, I don't remember Phil's last name, but when we would deal with some of the people there, it was just like, no, we can't do co-ops anymore overall. I don't know if it has anything to do with what we found in the military. We have students that do military co-op, and they must be paid as per the Treasury Board of Canada now. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but there was no discussion of other sites. Maybe we didn't ask the right questions. That's a possibility as well, but we were certainly open to expanding our co-op network. The more the merrier. In lieu of CNL, some of our new partners, we have Ontario Power Generation, which is a really big one. And should we be able to get our kids to Ottawa a little bit more easily, then we'd have PCL, Ellis Dawn, so a Bird Construction these folks are knocking on our doors. But I'm sorry, I don't know the exact answer as to why those satellite sites may have been off limits. Maybe we didn't ask the proper questions.
I think it might be worthwhile going back a great deal of the students, for example, would never be able to get to Ottawa from Deep River.
Right.
It's a 2.5-hour drive.
100%.
And even OPG presents travel issues, whereas the in-town sites offer a lot of placements and a lot of opportunities, and they're within a few-minute walk of the school. So I think it might be worthwhile to dig into that a little bit more and foster some new placements.
Do you know anybody that I could talk to that's not any? So
I think you can certainly send me an email, but I see my fellow trustee has.
Okay.
Yeah, something came out recently. There's an article that maybe the two of you should take a look at. It came out recently as to Nuclear Innovation Institute's Energy Co-op Program celebrates new graduates. It's with the Blue Water District School Board.
Nice.
It's unlike traditional co-op programs. You might be interested just to take a look at that article. It came out February 6th, 2025. So they have a number of programs that are directly tied into nuclear. So I just happened to read it. So
Love to learn more. And we were dealing with Phil, I can't remember Phil's last name, and then there was a few VPs and various kind of parts of whatever up there. But even there was a vice president of, and I have no idea what department, but their son wasn't able to get a co-op on the main site, or the active site, I guess you call it.
Yeah, so if you do want to communicate with me, I'll give you the preferences I have.
100%, that'd be great. We'll knock on more doors, because we'd love, what we found is on tours there, because they're very open now about having tours, and they do a lot of outreach to our students virtually. We find the trade staff there are like, when are the co-op students coming back? Like, kind of, why is this not happening? And so we were having a little trouble when we went directly to those persons and they went to their manager. We kind of get a no. So we tried from the top down, and we kind of got far enough, and then there was another no. So I contacted the CNSC, said something about these definitions of allowable doses are up for debate again as of like 2020, whatever. And so we'll be able to try again then if those go down. But yeah, we'd love to liaise with you and find out some more information, please, and thanks.
Great.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, because within CNL, right, at Chalk River, there's a hot zone that you have to cross over. So outside of that, you don't, I think everybody that goes in has these dosimeters.
Yes.
But there is no, or there is a delineation of going into the hot zone. At least when I was like working, we would go in and, you'd have to have your pass through the guards and stuff like that. So I'm just assuming that they're going, like anybody under 18, you're not coming to any of our sites. But it's interesting, with Blue Water, they have a programs.
We've noticed that across the province, that one might be done in a certain way, in some places done differently in others, and certainly within the skilled trades umbrella, that's quite common. CNL was super kind to share with us all the placements for internships for those that are in post-secondary already. And that list is bananas. Like, there's so many different opportunities to jump in there. And so great to have a hub in that community, but we'd love to get our co-op students in, and or we floated the idea with them of some sort of pipeline program. What skills do you need in the future? What micro-credentials can we apply or supply at the secondary level so that, you know, if you need non-destructive testers for this type of welding process, you invest in our location, we can basically invest in what's going to come down the road in the future. So they're certainly open to that.
And I think if I can just build on one more thing, the thing about CNL is it used to be just one organization. Now it's partly private and partly government. There's CNL and AACL. And so, and I think each of them have their own governance structures and probably pyramids. And so I think it is worthwhile looking at, because the CNSE would have control over some of their things, but it might not over some of the research, particularly the research and projects that happen in a different town.
Yeah, be great. Love to investigate that further. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I have a few. So you had talked about in the background that there's some preparation for students going to university. So what Shazams do you have that would prepare people going to universities?
You want to fill that or do you want?
Sure, I have my notes. Actually, I have to grab.
You do it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Let me just
Real
go.
quick, any
Yeah.
pathway, any program. So every SHSM program, you can have your post-secondary pathway as workplace, university, college, apprenticeship. Yep. Military, I guess, could be one. We call that workplace as well. But so every program has a pathway for every student. So whether you're in aviation, which we don't have here, or mining or health and wellness, one of those courses you take can direct you to the post-secondary destination of your choice. I stole all the thunder.
No, not at all. So this is from Pat, just in terms of the ones that we do offer. So arts and culture, business, construction and environment, food processing. Not all would be university, mind you. Information and communication technology, health and wellness. So on that one, there's the fitness component, but there's also the anatomical and the kinesiological component too. Hospitality, tourism, manufacturing, sports, and transportation. So those are the ones that we do currently offer right now.
Very good. Yeah. So we have 12 of 19. Are there any plans to add more? Like, have you sent out surveys, you know, and some of the students to say, hey, we need, you know, one of the 7 that you don't have? And then is there like an easy process to get a Shazam in?
So now to that, I think.
I knew the answer.
Yeah.
I would have to actually ask Pat about that, but you
Yeah,
may.
I've done it. Yeah. So if it's, there's a few to get a new health and wellness, those are a dime a dozen kind of across the province. So no, but aviation, aerospace, mining would be great, in forestry, which we used to have here. So if you choose the right one, your pathway could be a little bit, have a little less resistance than the other ones. You have to make your case for it. Right. It's easier to make your case when you have, you know, food processing is one that's uncommon in the province. And so getting that application approved, not that it was necessarily faster, but it was more of a shoe-in.
Because the forestry one sounds like, you know, it'd be because we have like forestry at a Algonquin College here, it'd be like an easy stepping stone.
Yeah. So yeah, multiple pieces have to fall into place, but yeah, for sure.
Kristen?
Just to build off of what's already been shared, the application process is very detailed. You have to outline all of your community partners up front. You have to show the bundles of courses that you're going to be able to offer. And so having gone through this process a few times in different capacities, my understanding is that the ministry really scrutinizes your completion rates to determine whether or not they're going to allow you to expand. And so although we have very high percentages of participation rates, we need to improve our completion rates. And so I'll let Alex, he's probably been more involved than I have, but I know that the ministry really looks at the data for your current programs to decide whether or not they're going to let you expand. And from my perspective, we should be focusing on improving our completion rates for the programs that we do have.
100%. We get a red light, green light, yellow light per school per year. Apply for more, don't apply for more, based on what the director said.
Susan?
Yeah, sorry, I do have one more question that just came to mind when we were talking about new Shazams. And it seems to me we had talked about an education Shazam not long ago. There was funding through the FSL program. I think that's where it was. I just wondered where that had gone to, because it seemed to be an SHSM that the ministry was really supporting. And I don't know where that's at. So just wondering if you can kind of give me an update on that.
I think that morphed into the business SHSM. We were looking at holding something outside of the current structure that the ministry would allow. We kind of proposed this model. Can we try this? And so that morphed into a business SHSM overall.
Okay, rather than an education. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, it wasn't, sorry.
I
Wasn't
guess
a sector.
just because we know we've got co-op placements like built in, right?
Yes, 100%.
That's why we were kind of thinking that that would be an ideal piece, and maybe that's something to look at down the road too. I'm not sure, but thanks for that.
Well, thank you. And lots of interest from our students in co-op placements with our skilled staff facilities. So we have electricians, as we mentioned before, and maybe some new staff. So lots of interest from students to shadow our facility staff as electricians or other.
The other questions I have, so just on expected outcomes. So it talks about build connections between education and future careers.
Mhm.
So what future careers are you guys looking at? Then, is there like a Shazam and coding AI? Because currently the Prime Minister is, overseas at a
Yes.
it's a global conference on AI.
Yeah. I would probably answer that by saying within these programs, I might just, we didn't highlight one called dual credit, which is another initiative where we have, long story short, students that attend college or college professors that attend high schools. And so like think team teaching or I'm taking a college course while in high school. This morning when we were looking at our offerings for next year, we're planning to offer, should everything line up, a computer systems technologist program. So students can basically go to the college either in a hybrid model where there's a little bit of virtual and a little bit of synchronous learning in the lab. So we would probably think that the dual credit would be a better vehicle for that. The ministry, in terms of the SHSMs, does allow us to have information and communications technology, which we do have at Ballard. So within that, a student can get their feet wet. Maybe a co-op placement would be a place where they could use, explore AI or explore special coding that could help them. We also have plans to take a look at a deeper cybersecurity type program with the dual credit initiative for OEAP specific. That's under skilled trades. Oh yes, I think so. Yeah, maybe I might know one or two, just not too far. That might be. So I think dual credit may be a little bit of a better vehicle. And then within SHSM one sector, within OEAP, it would be on the back end, the network cabling, the people that would build the infrastructure that would allow that to happen overall.
Awesome. That's good. Just a couple more.
Yeah.
So we're going to be doing presentations to Renfrew County Council and Pembroke Council.
Nice.
So do we have currently co-op students with those?
Look in the database. You see.
Yeah, so it'd be nice to find out
Yes.
what we have, and if not, or if we do, or also are there possibilities of looking at both the city and the county, right, about what they have and getting co-op.
Yep.
Students, in there, like if it's very small, there's something that we can, present to them. You guys have, this garage, that garage, you don't have any co-op students there. Why not? Like, what's the barrier?
You're right on. So that's, we have that. So it's really nice that a new relationship with the county of Renfrew. So it started with some of the facilities, and then a memo went out from, I wish I could remember the person's name, basically addressing all those departments saying you will be taking co-op students from now on. So our staff are doing that, and coming up at the end of this month, I think on the 17th, we meet again with the paramedics. We have a student who's doing like a co-op with the paramedics. They want to expand that. So the county absolutely is a great partner, and that partnership has exploded. For the city specifically here, I'd have to look into it, but it is common that when we look around, there might be a student with Town of Renfrew or Town of Deep River. And we can get that data, just it's in a database. I just don't know it off the top of my head, but absolutely County of Renfrew is a huge partner, and it's really helped our students in rural areas where there might not be a placement suitable to them that's within reasonable distance. There's many county garages or many county facilities that are, so that's been a big help.
That's good.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear about the paramedic.
It's neat.
Co-op.
Mhm.
Because like when I first started, we did have some co-op, and then with I guess private or just confidentiality and stuff like that. So they had to work their way through that. So it's nice to see that they've somehow overcome that,
Yes.
and then allowing paramedic co-op.
It's pretty neat. And so the teacher commented on riding along in the ambulance, and then, because the teacher went with the student for one ride, they invited that teacher to come in, and this teacher said they had a blast. It was really,
Yeah.
so it must have been a good outcome because we're eating it,
Yeah.
more and more. So, yeah.
And that's the other thing
Yeah.
is that hopefully the people that are, with that student that they go, this is probably a bad one, we're just gonna leave.
Yeah.
Right, where you stay in the vehicle, you stay up front, right? So we've
Yeah.
done that, a few times, even with the paramedic students, it's like, for your first day, yeah, we're not going to expose you to this.
Yeah. Well, we're meeting on I think it's the 17th, whatever it is, Monday, the 17th coming up pretty soon. So next Monday, yeah. So next Monday, we're meeting at the county office on International Drive. Not next Monday, 27th then? I don't know. I'd have to check my calendar. It's coming up this month. Yeah. Yeah, so this month. Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, it's lots of fun.
That's good. Okay, one more question. So in the Shazam, I'm assuming the same thing for OYAP.
Yeah.
Is to have the next steps, removing barriers. What barriers are you trying to remove currently?
So one of the things that we recognized was, and Director Nemi mentioned it too, in terms of enrollment, like participation rate versus completion rate. So one of the things, so again, going back to that, so how can we raise the completion rate? So in speaking with the students, one of the things that we recognized was they were saying, I'm having a difficult time completing it because I couldn't fit it into my timetable, or there were some constraints. So they were looking for different strategies, and one of the strategies was a bigger promotion of the summer co-op. But then the other one too, that was just in terms of with the My Blueprint, if we're able, like some students through promotion, they'll say, yeah, this is a good idea. I'd like to do SHSM. But some students may not be aware of it, or maybe when they're hearing it, they're not thinking that that's me. But with the My Blueprint, if the courses are already put into the system, like the My Blueprint system through AI, the AI is able to identify if there's a student that's already taking some of the prerequisites for that type of program, saying, you're already taking these courses, this would be a good program for you to consider. In addition to that, besides whether the machine figures it out or not, that's something that the staff can monitor as well, guidance counselors, student success teachers, where they can look at certain students and say, wait a second, if you have all courses already, maybe you should consider. So those would be a couple ways to increase the completion rate. So getting students in that have the greater potential, perhaps, more students that maybe didn't realize that this is a good path for them.
Awesome.
And some of the barriers would be a critical mass around just awareness. You might have students who are like, I want to be an electrician because everybody does, and I'm going to apply to college, and takes them a while to figure out, no, that's not the right path. You should do it differently. So within our, it's been the third year of funding from the ministry to allow us to educate guidance counselors on basically the apprenticeship pathway in the skilled trades career. So that's paying dividends as well. Just in the number of messages and types of comments we have, conversations we have with students. So they're getting to be aware of that too. And then there's work being done as well as on removing barriers for transportation for students, whether locally to this office or in other parts of the county. So those little things as they come up, try to smash them down to do kind of good things for kids. And our shops, like Trustee Gannett mentioned earlier, are absolute great places for students to learn. We've been lucky to receive some donated equipment as well that's kind of state of the art that we would not be able to afford otherwise. And so although that may not have been a barrier because the kids didn't know it was there, now they have a CNC machine. We've been able to invest in training, and should the upkeep of it go smoothly, then they have that opportunity to try that out. So those are some examples of barriers that were there, and then ones that we kind of tore down before they pumped up.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have. Anybody else? Last chance.
I'll be quick.
Sure.
I'll be quick. Speaking of barriers,
Yeah.
I do know that there's a pilot project coming in the Pembroke area
Mhm.
regarding
Bus.
transportation.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased to hear that's a 3-year pilot.
Mhm.
I'm sure that a lot of our sport students will help support that. I talked to Jamie Bramberger a couple of months ago, and Jamie says one of the first questions anybody asks that's coming in from out of town is, how do you get around in this town? Right. So it's 3-year pilot, and I really do hope that it does stick around after the 3 years, but
Us too.
just, yeah,
And-
it's some sort of app. It's on demand.
Yes.
I've done a little bit of reading on it, so I talked to the one counselor that was really spearheading that committee, so I wish it could be in other areas of the county also, but
Yeah.
Pembroke, I think, has a large enough population that hopefully it can stick around more than 3 years. And I know that the city has had very, very tight financial times. I mean, we've got a large tax increase, but it still did manage to go through. It was the one thing that went through because there was a lot of effort put behind it, and I just hope it takes off. Thanks.
Thanks. Heard it works well in North Gore and in Lanark, so.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, next on the agenda is the capital project planning process update.
guys.
And yeah,
Thanks, Leo. So we kept it tight in the report. The purpose is to update the Board of Trustees on the capital project planning process. In reviewing the way that we do things and looking to see how we could improve, communication came through. And so on our end, we are piecing in opportunities to receive input and then also opportunities to share output. So what I've included in the report is how we will be sharing that output and our progress with you. It's always on a cyclical nature, and I do just have to point out that the capital project planning list is really, it's like a balance sheet. It's a point in time. Today, this is where we're at, right? And so we have the input. We make our list with our best thinking. Sometimes roofs start leaking, sometimes windows are broken. We have student needs that we have to support, so projects get added. Sometimes when we go out to market, prices or availability of contractors also, make those adjustments when the prices come in really high and we have the luxury of time to say, we're not going to do that this year. So then, that project might come off, another one comes on. So it's very dynamic in nature. It follows that same cycle. We go out to tender in January, typically because the bulk of the work is done in summer. So in the report, you'll see that in September, our plan is to come to you and share with you our accomplishments in the summer. Sometimes it'll be a few of those ones where, well, we get it done or we've run into some issues, but we'll bring you up to date on, where we are, what we got done, what was added. Sometimes the student registers and has some needs that we need to support. So sometimes we're actually even adding things so last minute to support those students. In November, much like we did last year, we'll bring you an update of what that project list looks like. At that time, it's the best thinking. This is what we're planning for. In April, again, we'll come back to you at this table and we'll say, as a result of the going to market, these projects are still on the list. These have been added and these have been taken off, and we'll, provide a bit of an explanation as to why all of that happened. Inserted on the operational side, we have in the spring, we'll reach out to our senior managers and our principal, vice principal group, and we'll ask for some feedback of if there's any items that they would like to see, would like to have added. We'll gather that, we'll incorporate it into that list that comes in November. And then after every update that we bring to you here at trustees, which goes to exec first, then it comes to you, then we're going to circle back to the people that provided that input to us, right? And so we had some good discussions earlier in the week. And so sometimes from that project list, we were reviewing the one that was received or submitted last spring. And sometimes we see trends, sometimes we see individual sites, but that input is all used to develop that project list. So what we're striving to improve at is then providing that feedback to the people that are giving us that information. Just checking my notes. Yep, I think that's everything that I wanted to say there. So the current status is, of course, we are out to market now with our list, and we're waiting to see when everything closes, where those prices land. And then once we've landed that, we'll get that information back to exec, to the Board of Trustees, and to the group of people that have inputted. I had a little fun with AI because we're trying it safely. Corey, under Scott's direction, has provided the senior managers and myself with a tool to practice. And so I recall, Jody, I'm looking at you. I recall you asking in previous conversations, what's the criteria? How do we prioritize and everything else? And so this is the start of that document. It's by no means the end, but what the attachment provides for you is a definition of capital, the funding sources that flow through the Ministry of Education, the eligible expenses. And so that is from our drop-down menu because it all aligns again back to that funding with a little description of each. And then our current criteria that we developed, largely as a result of that conversation that we had, was really just documenting our practice because it was a practice, but it wasn't documented. And of course, it's not in any particular order, but we always look at student safety, the learning experience, the building envelope, regulatory compliance, contractor availability, and then that price value for money. And this list will sort of expand and retract as we move forward because like many times when you're starting a new process, it's always good to do a check-in and see how did that go and what we might like to change. Any
Any inquiries? No? Susan?
You know, I couldn't resist, Leo.
I know.
Even if I'm not there, right? I still have to ask my questions. Anyway, thanks, Jen. I appreciate that update because I think that's been very helpful to kind of clarify some of the criteria that is being considered when you are working on these projects. And I know it's really a juggling game sometimes to figure out what you're doing next. I guess I'm wondering, Anna, you talked about consultation and communication being critical, and I know in the past when I've talked to principals particularly, and even teachers in a school, I think that was one of the pieces that they found was a little bit challenging, is that they didn't really always know kind of where things were at, or what was being moved forward, and so I'm assuming that that's going to be remedied kind of as we move forward on this, because you need that input, and of course the value added is great when they can help you make some decisions about their particular school. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about that piece.
Sure. And that's all a plan in my head right now. And so we actually have to try it out and make sure it works. And so we'll continue with that continued input in the spring, but the timing is good. People in the schools have, spent most of the year and they have the ideas of what's working and what's not working. We'll build it into that plan, and then once that plan is built in, and as I said earlier, we'll have that intake sheet. And then what we do is we see the trends, and actually, I think 3 schools as an example mentioned phones and PAs. And as a system, we had already decided that was a priority, and we were going to move that forward. And I'm looking at Scott because that's a facilities IT thing. And of course, we know we're doing all of that work, but as you say, Susan, those people who put that input don't know that. So we have to get better at circling back and letting them know we've recognized the trend. Your request is falling into a trend. Your request just doesn't meet the criteria and will never be done. That's a hard message to hear, but sometimes it's just easier to say it, right? So we can all move on. It's a standalone on its own. It requires some more research. So it's not a this year thing, but it's a 3 to 5 years. But absolutely what you bring up is what we're trying to close the loop on, as explain when we go back, it's not just an answer, but explain sort of the process and how we got there. So over time, we're building capacity, and we'll have a better understanding of how the system works. And so maybe that messaging will change, but certainly at the beginning, that's a piece that just has not happened. So there's a lot of wondering, and when you know more, you do better, right? So that's what we're trying to close out.
Yeah, that's great, Jen. And I know it takes time to do that communication, to go back to a school and have that conversation with the principal or the teachers. But I think it's a critical piece of that whole collaboration piece. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and if I could just add, actually, under Director Nimi's leadership, we have many different ways to communicate back to the school. The family of school superintendents have meetings with their schools. CASINACE is an opportunity to be invited and share output. Scott and Carrie are operations elementary and secondary, so they can get it back that way. We can go and have a one-to-one meeting. So we are set up to have many different avenues to feed that information back.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something? It's very good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. It took me a second. I got into the wrong Gmail for a minute, so I apologize if I'm just a little bit back. First of all, thank you very much for looking into this and coming back. It's really reassuring to see that when we have like important conversations that they come back and that we can see what's happening. So thank you very much. I do have a question about the second page, and for the capital funding of school sites. I see there's criteria for project approval. And I understand that these are different ideas, and maybe I just missed it, but is there a priority amongst these criteria?
That often falls into that it depends. Is the roof currently leaking? Do we have a student arriving in September with some, accessibility needs that we need to support? Is it a sort of, has it been on the list for a really long time, and we've done a lot of work, architectural, structural, all of those sort of drive. We've invested time and money, and so it's time we have to move it forward. And I actually noticed that accessibility is not on there, is it? So maybe it was on the page before.
That is what
Oh, it's there. No, it's eligible, but it's not a criteria. So clearly AI has some work to do. I have some work to do. So this is our starting point and we're working to sort of refine it a little bit, but it does come down to that it depends. And it's the student desk, right? We're supporting our students.
Yeah.
And creating spaces for them to learn.
That's great. And you caught exactly what I was concerned is that it was an eligible expense, but it wasn't a criteria. And to me, and perhaps it's just because accessibility falls, I guess it's partly falls on us under student safety, but I think there might be worthwhile to have that accessibility component because access to education is exceptionally important.
Yes, yes. And we are always working to improve that at all of our sites, like, and then of course, when a need comes up, it becomes the priority, but we are always working on, I think ADHS it's the front door or the front entrance right now. So there are always, and I think Mackenzie had a recent job or I think principal.
Well, Mackenzie had a recent issue, I know for sure, with the theater, with the auditorium that, and I think some transparency was the issue. I think we communicated kind of by email with the relevant parties. And so I know that coming back to people will be really helpful. But also as you move forward, and I understand this is one of many things that you're doing, but as we do move forward, it would be nice to see if something's being canceled for something else, seeing that, okay, your project is, we understand it's been going on for a long time, but we've got this accessibility and being able to see kind of where your project lands. It might be helpful.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea of design of coming back. We have the plan, we come back in April, we had a shuffle, and then again in September, we had another shuffle, right? So you should be able to see ideally, and provide that opportunity to ask why. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? Thanks, Jen. Next, we have the RCDSB strategic plan process and Kristen.
Thank you. We have a very brief report, and we brought you a draft strategic plan process last spring with the intention of doing the bulk of the consultations in October and November. And then, as you know, we had the disruption to transportation services with students, and so we decided to postpone the consultations for the development of the new strategic plan. And so we now have a well-developed plan, a revised plan that we're sharing with you. It is in the link. And really, there are two main parts to the consultation. There are group, what I would call focus group consultations. A variety of different members of our educational community across all 7 school groups will be consulted. Students, families, community partners. You'll see where there's a student senate, Indigenous Student Forum Day, the leadership team, which includes principals, vice principals, and senior managers. March 5th is our first day with you, exec and trustees. So a variety of different opportunities to have groups of people dialogue together, generate ideas, and feed them back to us. And then also, once we complete all of the consultations, then we're going to open up a survey for all members of the educational community to complete. And in fact, we're going to have students from all the way from junior kindergarten to grade 12 and adults have an opportunity to complete the survey because we are going to have teachers lead discussions with their classes and complete the survey as a class so that we get all voices from across all the grades. And so those are the two main parts. You'll see that the fall of so essentially we're going to collect all this feedback from March until June. And then we're going to use July and August to collate all that information, look for themes, and then essentially by the fall have draft content for the strategic plan. And then once we have the draft content supported by the trustees strategic plan committee, by the staff committee, and by exec, then what we're going to do is then Connor will prepare a document with that content, bring it to life. And our goal is that by the December board meeting, of this calendar year, we would bring, a draft version of the strategic plan that's all laid out for you to review and approve, hopefully, and with us launching it in January of 2026. So you'll see, I'm not going to go line by line, but you can see the whole plan is there. You can also see a column where we have a column called lead/hosts. We are using a participatory leadership approach. We've had 12 staff trained in the art of hosting. So the 6 members of exec and 6 additional staff. And so those 12 people and our consultant, Jen Williams, will be hosting the consultations. And we really would really want to have trustees there. Your role will be to open and close the sessions because they are, the strategic plan is your plan. So you'll open and close the sessions, and then you'll participate with the members of the educational community who are there. And also, I am going to be looking to add a date. So we have March 5th together, exec and trustees. We're going to look to add a date after all the consultations. So we have sort of a consolidation session together. Like after you've heard all the feedback, what else are you thinking compared to March 5th? Has your thinking changed? Are there other priorities that are surfacing for you? So we're going to be looking to secure a date sometime in May for that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Judy?
I have one just about March 5th. What does that day look like? Like what exactly is our role on the 5th? And how can we best prepare for it, I suppose?
Great questions. So the tentative plan right now is that the morning we're really going to do learning together. We're going to look at some background information. So for example, our current strategic plan. It's kind of nice that the week before at the board meeting, you're going to get an update, a mid-year update on our focus goals. So it's going to be a little bit fresh about at least those 8 goals. But we're going to do kind of a little bit of a review of our current strat plan, where we are with that. We're also actually going to look at some samples of strategic plans from other school boards or even maybe other organizations, and have participants go identify what they like about that strategic plan, because there might be things in there that jump out at you. We're also going to look at other, what I'm calling what we're going to front load, what are some other pieces of information that we're going to share with you in advance of you sort of providing some feedback about your ideas around priorities and goals. So that's kind of the morning. And then the afternoon, we're going to replicate what we're planning on doing with the leadership, with all the other groups. So we're going to have you participate as a participant in, in an art of hosting session where you're going to generate ideas for the strategic plan.
And not to oversimplify it, but so basically learning and brainstorming.
Yeah, the morning, really trying to give you information, sort of front loading, kind of giving you information that you might want to consider or be thinking about or having at your fingertips. And then in the afternoon, really identifying what do we want for our students? What are our priorities? What matters? What do we need to be thinking about in terms of the future for our students? And there will be guiding questions where in groups you will discuss these questions and then generate ideas and share them.
Okay. And then after we do these ideas, and at the end of the day, I'm guessing we end up with a lot of notes. Are they consolidated before they go to the schools?
So those notes won't be consolidated. We're going to keep those as sort of session number 1. And then we're going to do sort of all those consultations in the same way with all the groups, and then pull in all that information and then theme it all, and then consolidate that and share that back with trustees.
Okay. All right. And that's the draft strategic plan in November.
And the draft content, initially we'll have content that before Connor puts it into a document with graphics and things like that.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, I think I understand. So we're not actually writing it out. We're one of the several consultations. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry if everybody else knew that and I didn't.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay. No, that's
Thank
great.
you. No, you cleared up some things. Okay.
Yeah, and
Thank
so
you.
the strategic plan committee will do a lot of the work of pulling out all the themes from the surveys and all the consultations, and we'll bring something that's sort of collated to you to review.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Because it's going to be a lot of information. as you can see from all the sessions, and then all students and potentially families and staff being surveyed as well.
I one just follow-up question. If we have things that are very important to us that relate to the strategic plan, is that something we bring with us to the meeting, or is that something you'd like in advance?
No, you bring it to the meeting.
Okay.
And so on March 5th, that's when it can surface. And then also when we have that consolidation session after all the consultation sessions, then you can, if that still feels like a priority after hearing all the voices, then you could bring it to the table again that day.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Kristen. As we had said before, like this is a lot of work that's being put into the strategic plan, right? And as much work as that is, and we'll get hopefully, like when you look at our current strategic plan, that and the work that was put into that, and it's just ongoing. So this is just the start of the start. All right. So yeah, so there's lots more interesting stuff to come. I'm looking forward to it, especially on March 5th. You just have to put that in.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah. Yes, Karthik.
Simplify in a fun way, the strategy plan. We have all the ingredients from the consultation. So it's like a cooking competition. We take all the ingredients, make a dish. That is the strategic plan. That's how we take it. It's like a simple analogy, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. All right, so that's all that we have for staff reports. So we'll go into closed. I need a motion to go into closed. Mover and a seconder. Thanks, Karthik, and seconded by Jody. All right, so we're in closed. Before we go, so when Kristen did her RCDSB strategic plan process, there was a recommendation with that. So we just have to have that pass. So the recommendation from Kristen's report is that the Renfrew County District School Board approved the RCDSB strategic plan process as presented. So I need a motion to, thanks Jody and Karthi, all in favor? Thanks, that's passed. Some other housekeeping stuff. Anybody know what's happening March 5th? I have something. March 5th.
Remind me. March
We're
4th.
having a party. Yeah. As you know, so we have the governance core 2.0, and assuming we'll I'll talk to Kristen later, and we'll set up something like we had for the 1.0 that never materialized. That's yeah. So we'll get that working. Any other things that Christina has a little conflict of interest on February 20th. She has an IAC meeting and a student senate meeting. So she's going to go to the IAC, the student senate. There's a somebody could go to that meeting. And can you give details when it is?
No, 'cause it's only my second one.
I'll be at the student senate.
Yeah, I don't have
So the usually there's two.
Yeah, right.
I think
February 20th. I don't have a calendar
Kristen
link for
has
it, so.
Kristen?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt this conversation. I just have one item after you're done talking.
Okay.
I
sorry.
apologize.
resolution.
No, sorry.
Student senate is from 10 to 1 and IAC is from 9 to noon. And IAC is at Opeongo and student senate is here.
That's the problem.
Yes.
I
So
tried.
if there's anybody interested here currently, you can say so. If not, then just let myself know or Christina know that you're going to fill in her spot, please.
What date it is?
February 20th.
20th.
I'm not sure about
Okay.
it.
Yeah, so look at your schedules and stuff. So Dave is also on there and he's going. So. Great, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything good for the board? Krista?
Thank you. I just wanted to, I thought while we're talking about the professional learning, especially related to governance, we have Marion Thompson Howell coming back for the afternoon before Committee of the Whole in March. So it should be in your calendars. I'm going to go in there right now and double check that I had invited all trustees at the time that we booked it. So she is coming back for a check-in. So I will be connecting with her between now and then to sort of do a little bit of planning. But she'll be virtual, and it'll be an opportunity for us to, to ask questions. She might review some of our board packages again and videos of our board meetings just to maybe give us a bit more feedback. But we had talked about her coming back after we've had the training just for a check-in so that we could touch base. So that's next month.
Looking forward to that.
I missed what date it is.
March
20th?
4th. Tuesday, March 4th is when we have
March
committee of
4th.
the whole.
You do have the invite in your calendar, though. I just looked.
Thank you. Perfect.
You're welcome.
Great.
Yeah, I will see. Invite.
Anything else, anybody? Thank you for a good meeting. Thanks those that are far away for joining.
Thanks, Leo, for covering.
We just need a motion to adjourn. Thanks, Mike. That was quick. Seconder, Dorothy, all in favor?